Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all see that man back in the back with all the hair on his head? She said that about my bald head, and he laughed louder than anybody in the room. I know you were all on my side, weren't you? That as far as he and I are concerned, God gave all of us men an equal amount of male hormones. He wants to use his to grow hair, that's fine with us. Y'all are a good group, I can tell that already. And I am delighted to be here. I've been speaking up north a lot, and it's so much fun to be down here where I can say I'm fixing to get ready to go, and y'all know what I'm talking about. I've spoken in New England. Can you imagine somebody talking like me speaking in Connecticut and Massachusetts? Then I found out I was part of their multicultural diversity program. I was a token redneck. How many of y'all are from the South? All right, how many of you have taken your little accent, Southern accent up north lately? What's the first thing they ask you? Where are you from? Don't you get tired of that? I was up there at Manhattan 5 days in a row, 5 business days. About Wednesday, I got sick and tired of these people. Said, where are you from, Mr. Hood? We sat down at one of these tables just like this. Smart aleck, a nice man right across the table. Looked at me and I and said, where are you from, Mr. Hood? And the whole table, all the rest of them leaned forward because they wanted to know too. I looked him right in the eye and I said, I'm from right here in New York City. You should have seen the look on their faces. They would not look at me. They wouldn't even look at each other. They sitting there staring at the ceiling, counting their feet, same feet they've always had. And finally, I broke in and I said, now, Coach, I didn't grow up here in New York City. A wave of relief swept across their face. And the guy said, oh, I didn't think so. Where'd you grow up? I said, Boston, Massachusetts. Boy, you should have seen. That got him. How many of y'all have been to Boston? I'm trying to learn how to say Boston instead of Boston. We went one time, stayed in this fancy hotel called the Marriott Long Wharf. Now what they're trying to say is wharf, which we call a dock. But they call it the Marriott Long Wharf. Well, I landed at Boston Logan Airport. I'm getting good at that, Boston. And I called up to Marriott Long Wharf. This woman answered, can I help you? I said, this is Ralph Hood. I'm over here at the airport. Could you tell me how to get from here over to your hotel, honey? She didn't answer me. She covered up the phone. But I could hear her. She was talking to somebody named Mabel in the background. And what I heard her say was, Mabel, Mabel, pick up the phone quick. I swear I think it's Forrest Gump. Now, since then, I've stayed in several nice hotels, and I've gotten used to them. I like them. But the first one scared me to death, the Ritz-Carlton in Naples, Florida. Anybody here ever stayed at a Ritz-Carlton? 2 people sitting right next to each other. Somebody better count the money they've been handling now. I wasn't paying for mine, and I wasn't used to all this luxury. And the service, listen, I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom, came back, the bed was made up. I couldn't believe it. But that wasn't the best service they had. They had another one I never had seen before called turn down service. They have that where you were? There ain't a thing to it, but some woman comes in there and pulls the cover back, turns it down like you ain't got enough sense to get into bed. I didn't know anything about turn down service. The doorbell rang. I had a doorbell on this fancy room. It rang, and I opened the door about sundown. There's a nice young lady there. She smiled, and she said, Mr. Hood, would you like to be turned down for the evening? Listen, I have been turned down for the evening by women all over this country. Back when I was single, I was an expert on the subject. Well, I found out she wasn't going to do anything. She pulled the cover back, left me a piece of chocolate on that pillow. By the way, how many of y'all have been out west in the middle of the summer and stayed in a hotel? Hot, Las Vegas. Hot as the hinges of Hades. I almost messed up there. And I got to the room, and it says there's two little old bottles, big, not that big, about half that size. Hold that up so they can see it. There you go. About half that size. It said, for your convenience. I said, oh, that's nice. I was halfway through that bottle before I read the rest of the sign. How many of y'all seen that sign? You have, haven't you? You have too, I can tell. The rest of the sign says, this is here for your convenience. If you drink, it'll be a charge of $2.75. You know, that's more expensive than gasoline. And I looked at that thing, I didn't know what, I already had about $1.50 worth already. Now, I don't know what you did, but I took that sucker to the bathtub and filled it back full of water. We moved one time. Didn't move but about 1.5 miles, and I was still selling airplanes at the Huntsville, Alabama airport. And I'm walking out the door to go to the airport. My wife said, now, don't you forget, this is the day we moving. I said, I know that. She said, yeah, but you're going to forget it before you get home. I said, I will not. She said, yes, you will. And you take this piece of paper, the address is written on it. She didn't even think if I can remember that I can find the dang place. Made me mad, treated me like a child. I stomped out the door, went to work. That afternoon, I got home from work, and the key wouldn't fit in the door. Oh, this is the day we moved. I better run around that new house quick before she figures out I came by here. Where is that piece of paper? Couldn't find the piece, could not remember the address. But what we do in your job, in my job, and with our families, what do? We do the best we can with what we've got. I didn't have much, but about that time, I'm trying to figure this out. This cute little girl comes up the sidewalk, just a darling little girl about that high. And I said, there's my answer. She'll know. I bent over and looked her in the eye. I said, honey, the people that lived here, sweetheart, do you know where they moved to? She said, come on, Daddy. Mama said you'd forget. And when I used to work at the airport, we'd get corporate pilots come in, and we'd take them to lunch. They'd pay for it. We'd drive them. Good deal. And I was driving 3 foreigners to lunch one time in Huntsville, Alabama. I had 3 foreigners, one from New Jersey and 2 from Michigan, I think it was. This is in Alabama. We're driving. It's in the fall. We're driving down the highway, and there's this beautiful cotton in the field, ripe, just ready to be picked. Beautiful, looked like snow. How many of y'all have ever seen cotton ready to be picked? Oh, we got some hands on that one. It's gorgeous, isn't it? A fellow from New Jersey says, what in the world is that in that field? Y'all know what I want to tell him. Same thing we always told them. I want to say, them's grits in full bloom. But I'd read where we got to start getting along with everybody. It's a global market. Everybody's got to work together. And so I told them the truth. I said, sir, that is king cotton growing in the heartland of the South. I was so proud of myself. Told the truth to somebody like that. I could have gone home proud if they'd left me alone. But no, you know how pushy they can get. We hadn't gone a half mile before he asked me another question. I couldn't handle 2 on the first day of the program. That's just all it was. We passed this soybean field. He said, now what is that in that field? Well, I told him the truth about cotton, but that was about all I could do. I tried to say soybeans. I swear it. I said, well, them polyester. I felt bad about that, but I got to be good buddies with one of them. I ashamed myself. He invited me up to New Jersey, showed me a whole field of rayon all ready to be picked. Here's another thing. When you get a few people on your team, before you get them, anybody that helps you with something, anybody you need help with, listen to them. Pay attention and be sure that you understand the situation. How many of y'all can remember a time you did not do that and were totally embarrassed as a result? All of you. Some of you raise your hand, some of you sit, now I ain't telling him. No telling what he'll say. I remember the first time I ever flew myself to Lexington, Kentucky. Anybody here familiar with Lexington? You ever live there? Tell them what they raise in Lexington. Race horses. I didn't know that. I mean, I had been told that. I knew about the Kentucky Derby, but I didn't know they raised them. You know, Lexington's just a little way off. I flew that airplane up there. I landed at the airport. That seemed logical. Taxied up into the general aviation, the private airplane side of the airport. Got up, and I'm walking in. Could not believe my eyes. Everywhere I looked, they got signs. Beautiful signs. Every one of them advertising the same thing. Guess what it was? Stud service. Didn't a one of them say a thing about horses? I said, you know, obviously supply and demand is somewhat skewed. Maybe this is a place I've been hunting since I was 13. Maybe I could get me a job. And I did up my tie and I walked over the counter, another good-looking woman behind the counter, and I said, couldn't help but see all your signs. I just kind of interested. How much they pay studs up here? She said, $100,000. This is back in the 70s. Y'all realize if I had that job that year, I could have made $300,000.